There's been many a time when a particular game has reminded me of a specific time or event. From birthdays playing WWF WrestleMania to summer holidays full of Mega Bomberman and even trips to stay with relatives where I was gifted Ridge Racer Type 4. Even though that one's not Sega, so that game can do one. But you get the gist. Every now and then you have a game that can conjure up a particular memory, and for this episode I wanted to revisit a game that's chock full of happy memories for me. Fighting Vipers. Back in 1996 I was hyped for the next set of big arcade conversions that were winging their way home that winter. After the big three had launched and lit up my gaming world from around a year previous, Sega were gearing up for another onslaught of gaming goodness to blow people's socks off. These titles included a spot-on conversion of Virtua Cop 2, the graphically enhanced Daytona CCE, and the game I still love and play a ton to this day, Fighting Vipers. As a big fighting game fan, AM2's follow-up to the legendary Virtua Fighter 2 was well up my street, with interesting characters, more OTT gameplay, and a fascinating concept in breakable walls and a curious feature with elastic walled arenas that could ping opponents out of sight. Weird, but very cool. The arcade game looked the business, and after the seemingly impossible feat that was the Saturn conversion of Virtua Fighter 2 that defied every expectation at the time, I trusted the game was in good hands and was looking forward to the game muchly. Early screenshots were promising, and the promise of a full 60 frames a second being present much like Virtua Fighter 2 certainly helped enhance my excitement. And while the high definition mode of Virtua Fighter 2 was sadly gone, the all-important light sourcing that gave the game its distinctive atmosphere was present, and in a way, I could understand why they prioritised this over resolution this time. All in all, the force felt strong with this one, and while I was lucky enough to have friends who purchased both Daytona CCE as well as the incredible Virtua Cop 2, it was Fighting Vipers I was looking forward to the most. As launch approached, there were a few other games that were taking up a lot of my time back in the twilight months of '96. Street Fighter Alpha was a well-bedded in staple of my friendship group, and as an additional surprise, Nights into Dreams was blowing us away with a gaming experience that was still wowing us to this day. But as the end of the year drew near, there was an additional surprise that came our way that we didn't see coming. Christmas Nights was effectively a demo of the main game, reskinning Claris's first stage and forging a new route on the same map for Elliot, essentially giving him a new level. Nights into Dreams was magical enough, but combining it with a Christmas theme took it to the next level and made for one of the finest and most beloved games I've ever played. But what's this got to do with Fighting Vipers, I hear you ask? Well, as Christmas drew near, news stories began to circulate about Christmas Nights and how us Sega fans could acquire it, and it wasn't a run-of-the-mill case of popping into a shop and buying it. You see, Sega were giving the game away as a gift for all of us loyal Sega fans, and it was particularly welcome after a year of taking crap off kids at my college who endlessly told me the Saturn sucked compared to the PlayStation, even though they'd never played one. But the criteria for getting hold of the title was a little confusing. Early magazine articles alluded to having to pick up at least 2 of Sega's big hitter games that holiday season, or buy a shiny new Saturn and get it along with it. Alas, having already purchased my Saturn back at launch, buying a second was not an option, and so getting the gift with a game purchase was my best bet. But another hurdle came in the form of my lack of buying power, with only money for one game and no prospect of a second to get hold of the fabled Christmas Nights. At a loss, I simply had to concede that Christmas Nights would not be coming to Casa Ahoy that fine winter. That was until I picked up a copy of Stevie G and saw that the information had been amended from what I'd previously seen, and that the Nights giveaway was now being rolled out with the purchase of just one of Sega's big Christmas games. Good times. And so, with the magic of Christmas surprises on the 25th of December seemingly having evaporated from my parents' concern, they had furnished me with the necessary doubloons to take myself to town and buy myself my copy of Fighting Vipers. Unfortunately, while I was itching to grab the game, the Christmas Nights deal had not yet started, and I certainly wasn't going to be heading out to pick up Fighting Vipers until the Christmas Nights gifting had been rolled out. And thus, with the money burning a hole in my pocket, I waited. It was torturous. I wanted to play Fighting Vipers so badly, but I just had to grin and bear it away. Even worse, nobody actually even seemed to know when the Christmas Nights deal was happening. Magazines written weeks in advance of printing didn't know, and shops were giving flimsy ideas of potential dates that had me on one occasion heading to town only to find there was no sign of Christmas Nights. On that occasion, however, they did provide me with a launch date that I was assured was going to be the official release. And again I waited. And lo, as this day approached, I once again took the arduous bus journey into town, skeptically expecting to come home once again nightsless. However, on this occasion something was different. I could actually see a box of them behind the counter, and at last I could bust open my wallet and purchase Fighting Vipers. But of course, it wasn't going to be as straightforward as that. As I took the game to the counter, I sought clarification from the cashier that I would indeed get my copy of Christmas Nights with my purchase. The teenager seemed confused, and even as I pointed to the copies of Christmas Nights I could see stacked in a box behind him, he just had an expression of bewilderment at what I was saying. Seeking help, he turned to the shop manager who was nearby. I specifically remember this dude as he looked uncannily like the bad guy who drove the Juggernaut that destroyed both Kit and my dreams in the Knight Rider episode Night of the Juggernaut. As much as I couldn't stand that guy, his villainous antics were like schoolyard hijinks next to what this manager dude did next. Slightly under his breath I heard him utter the words, "We're not supposed to be giving them out yet." My heart sank, and after the ordeal I had been through, something came over me. You see, if there's one thing about me that people quickly figure out, it's that I'm a pushover. In fact, I pretty much never stuck up for myself in my entire life, until now. I can't remember exactly what I said, but I do remember a level of assertiveness came over me that I'd never experienced before, and I firmly told them that I would not be purchasing Fighting Vipers unless they gave me my copy of Christmas Nights with it. And amazingly, despite the fact I was probably coming off as an entitled turd of a kid, it worked. And here it is, the very copy I battled Michael Knight's nemesis for, and I didn't even have to wait for him after work, driving ahead of him to oil slick his tyres so that he learned his lesson not to deprive me of Christmas Nights the hard way. And so, with both Fighting Vipers and Christmas Nights safely in my possession, I hopped on the bus home to have one of the merriest Christmases there ever was. Christmas Nights is obviously fantastic, but after both my competition run and our book club episodes, I'll simply say if you want to know more about that game, go check out those videos. But we gotta get back to the main event first in this video, Fighting Vipers. So while Christmas Nights was the perfect accompaniment to my fighting game fix, Fighting Vipers was a joint headliner for me Christmas '96. The game was fantastic, with exceptional gameplay that feels even better than the arcade to me. Virtua Fighter 2 was a perfect fighting game, with battles playing out like the finest choreographed martial arts movie you've ever seen. It was gaming poetry in motion, and the Saturn conversion a year prior had defied every expectation of the machine and resulted in a game that went on to become the biggest selling title on the platform, and deservedly so. With Fighting Vipers, AM2 were clearly looking to express themselves further and explore a more outrageous side of 3D fighting, with more elaborate and crazy battles, with counters aplenty, a bigger aerial game, and impressive finishes like smashing a defeated foe through a wall to add insult to injury. You see, Fighting Vipers is like Virtua Fighter if you gave it 10 Red Bulls, a big bag of Haribo, and sent it into a zero gravity soft play area. It's Virtua Fighter that's gone ballistic and started bouncing off the walls. Quite literally, in fact. Like VF2, Fighting Vipers had a 3-button setup, with controls assigned to a simple block, punch and kick configuration. Even though this may sound simple, there are plenty of moves on offer, and a brief look through the command list in practice mode shows how much depth and intricacies are present in the game. And while Virtua Fighter 2's battles tend to be primarily ground focused, Fighting Vipers includes plenty of aerial options that push the boat out with launchers, wall jumps, juggles, crossovers and elaborate air grabs, adding a spice to the explosive mixing pot. It's all quite a far cry from the curious moon jumps of Virtua Fighter 2. And while the walled arenas of Fighting Vipers present an inability to win by ring out, the exciting and vicious finishing strikes that knock your opponent through a wall is a spectacle that's a joy to behold. Adding characters with designs that sought to capture the various street fashions of the era, the OTT attire also housed an additional function in the form of armour, with attacks that strike particular parts of the body repeatedly, resulting in parts of the costume flying off. This affects not just the appearance of your character, but also the gameplay, as dropping heavy armour can give you enhanced speed and agility, but also has the drawback of leaving you susceptible to taking greater damage when taking punishment. All in all, it's a cracking game straight out of the labs of AM2 at a time when they were on fire with brilliant games, and I'd certainly class Fighting Vipers as just that. So grabbing the game, I was in fighting game paradise. There was so much on offer, it was just down to picking my main character. Well, that's that decided then. Yep, Candy, or Honey depending on your region, spoke to me in ways that only a prime Terry Hatcher had done before. Plus her outfit had some interesting colourings that enhanced the Christmas feeling with her dress almost looking like some kind of Santa girl thing. The fact that I found her the most fun character was also a bonus, and Sega definitely knew what they were doing with this girl, but the entire cast was a pretty interesting bunch. From the Aliens-esque character Jane, who is a double for Vasquez, to the rollerblading cool girl Grace, and even had you rock dudes cover with clear nods to Axl Rose with characters like Raxel. It was certainly an intriguing ensemble. So the game was great, and all in all, with the fun of the Christmas season, between Christmas Nights and Fighting Vipers we were well covered for games in Christmas 1996. And while in the ensuing years Fighting Vipers was perhaps eclipsed by the newer and more feature and cast rich lights of Fighters Megamix, which are not just the full roster of Fighting Vipers but Virtua Fighter 2 as well, plus some very interesting additions, there's still something appealing to me about the purity of a straight arcade conversion that I was hyped about, and in fact, Fighting Vipers is still pretty much my go-to between the two for whatever reason. And as a result of this, Fighting Vipers became one of my favourite Christmas games that was not a Christmas game, if you get my meaning. And while I find myself playing it all year round, there just feels like something special about firing it up at Christmas time and reliving those past joys all over again with this fantastic title. And throwing Christmas Nights into the equation obviously helps things tremendously, especially if it's for the Gaming for Ages Christmas Nights competition is going on right now, so check the links in the description for the festive fun with that bad boy. And if any of you guys watching have a story or similar thing going on with a particular game, we'd love to know about it. We enjoy hearing other people's experiences and memories, so please feel free to let us know in the comments below. It would be awesome to learn about it. Merry Christmas everyone, hope you have a good one, and be sure to keep it locked here on Gaming for Ages for more retro goodness soon. Laters.